Hi, folks. Welcome to the 38th presentation hosted by AlmonTravel CARP. And for tonight, Country Walkers and VBT Bicycling and Walking Tours, held every Tuesday at 6:30 Atlantic Time. As in the past, this presentation is being recorded and will be on the CARP Travel website shortly after. A little bit about us here at AlmonTravel. We've been in business since 2003. That's over 18 years. We have a number of specialties that we work on. Probably one of the most significant has been destination weddings, where we've done 130 destination weddings across Canada, down in the Caribbean area. So how does this apply to this demographic? Well, if you have a special anniversary or a special trip where you're likely to have extended family and friends going along, we have a lot of group travel experience, and we can help you with that. Having done all those destination weddings and been down to the Caribbean quite a bit, we also have visited a lot of resorts, so we have a pretty good idea of the quality of resorts. So if you have an adult-only vacation or a family vacation, we certainly have the knowledge and experience to be able to help you with that. Extended Florida trips. We are Florida specialists, especially with theme park vacations. So extended family vacations there are something that we can help with too. We've been down to Florida a number of times and have visited the theme parks regularly. River cruises, probably one of the most significant parts of our business. We've done 10 different itineraries around the world. 2 in Vietnam, Cambodia, and the Mekong, as well as in the north, the Red River. We've also done the Yangtze in China together with the Land Tour. We've done the Nile in Egypt. We have done the Rhine, the Danube, and the Rhone river cruises in Europe, as well as the Po River in Italy and Portugal's Douro River as well. We've also done the Mississippi on a sternwheeler, which was quite a neat trip. So we have lots of experience with that and can help you with that as well. Ocean cruises, we've done most of the popular itineraries. We've done Hawaii, we've done the Mediterranean, we've done the 3 Caribbean itineraries, the trip around the UK, which was very interesting, Australia, New Zealand, and Alaska. So we can help you with our experience there as well. Coach tours, from local bubble tours like a tour of Newfoundland and Labrador to coach tours around the world. We work with a variety of touring companies to find the best option for you. Travel conditions, was just talking about that at the beginning of the presentation prior to recording. They're changing all the time. I think for the better. We are experiencing more cases in Nova Scotia, but there seems to be less worry about that now. And I think that's due to the fact that more and more of the population is becoming vaccinated. That's going to be key. And eventually we will get to a point where if you test positive for COVID, it's not going to be an issue to come home, very much like catching the regular flu. And I think that's where we are headed here, but it may be a little bit of time for that. My association with these presentations is through Bill Van Gorder, who is a chief executive operator of CARP Nova Scotia and also CARP National. I was working with him on a charitable institution for several years. We got to know each other quite well. And I booked a couple of trips for him, a river cruise in Europe and a Rocky Mountaineer train ride. And as a result of the service that we provided him, he asked us to become the official travel agency for CARP Nova Scotia, which includes New Brunswick and PEI. We were very happy to do so. I'd like to now introduce Glenn Letch, who lives in Florida, originally from Boston, who is the National Accounts Manager for Country Walkers and VBT Bicycling Vacations. He's going to be regaling us with information on 2 companies he represents, with a focus on what the companies offer for guided and self-guided walking and bicycling tours in different parts of the world. Glenn, the floor is yours.
Thanks so much, Danny. It is my absolute pleasure to be here to talk about our great brands. It seems like we've been talking about scheduling this for a long time, and I'm happy that it's finally arrived, and it's arrived at a great time for our company, because not only are we back out and operating, definitely in domestic US, but in other parts of the world as well. And it's also a great time for people to book their trips for next year. Fall and particularly October is always our biggest booking month of the year. And just people get really excited. And if they're like the travelers that have traveled with us in 2021, everyone is super excited to get back out there and interact with the world. So we are part of a larger company, Xanterra Travel Collection, based in Denver. Our offices are across the border there in Vermont, outside of Burlington, and we do only active travel. So we have VBT bicycling vacations. The V stands for Vermont, but you'll see on our map we go a lot more than just Vermont. So we kind of evolved that into an acronym. And then Country Walkers is walking tours on that brand. Total, we have 133 itineraries. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean destinations, because in a lot of parts of the world, we offer different styles, which we'll talk about in this presentation, to really find, the style that's right for the traveler, and whether it's guided, self-guided, with a boat attached to it, and so forth. And we have a great staff. I've worked with the company for 9 years, starting with Country Walkers, evolving into both brands when they came together 7 years ago. But we've had people in our company that have been with us for 25 years putting these great tours together. We are very active in the U.S. Tour Operators Association and the Tour Cares program, which does a joint venture with Canada and also Europe for operating safely, particularly during this pandemic. You'll also see at the bottom some other great brands that are part of Xanterra. Probably most familiar to you would be Windstar Cruises, perhaps Holiday Vacations, and Grand Canyon Railway and Hotel. So who goes on our tours? Kind of a perfect demographic for this organization. Definitely 50 plus, although we're finding I could easily change that number to 60 plus because of the advent of e-bikes and how popular they are and how they've benefited our guests. A lot of solo travel. So people like to travel, not always single. We don't use that term, but it could be people that maybe this is my thing that I like to do, ride a bike or walk or hike, but maybe it's not my significant other or my friends, what they're into. So we do get a lot of people that travel independently. They get on and they really love our group experience, and make a lot of new friends that are very like-minded. You don't have to be a super athlete. We stress that throughout. It's definitely most of our tours are easy to moderate. We'll touch on what we mean by level of activity as we go through. And then, of course, all of our guests are very open-minded and eager to learn about the area they're traveling to. They're going to learn a lot, and they're going to take in a lot, and it's not going to be what they typically would, A, interact in their everyday life, and B, what they may have done on their typical vacations over the years. So no matter what brand, we have some core components that are included in every tour. So on our guided product, always local guides. We call them leaders for biking, guides for walking. Premium accommodations and boutique hotels, classic and off the beaten path destinations. I mentioned the activity levels. They're very carefully put together so that we make sure that you've got the right fit for your level of fitness and what you really want to do on your vacation. Some great cuisine. You're always going to learn a lot about the area you're traveling to through the food. We do offer air packages on our international tours, just about every product with the exception of one style. And then course, as we've operated for 50 years with VBT, 42 years with Country Walkers, we've always been safe. You don't stay around in this end of the business without being safe, but we've obviously enhanced that through the COVID crisis that started in 2020 and of course still continues on right now. But again, by managing it, we've been able to really get our guests back out and touring around the world. So where do we go? I mentioned VBT is the V's for Vermont, but we have expanded a lot more beyond the borders of Vermont over the years. So everywhere in green is where we operate tours, heavy concentration in Europe, Western Europe. We go as far away as New Zealand. We have Vietnam, South Africa on a bike, some tours in South America, a great deal in the United States, and we've added more in 2021. Those will continue in 2022. And then also some Canadian tour choices as well. Our styles, I mentioned that word a couple of times. We have 3 different styles of VBT bicycling vacation. One is what we've done since day one, which is a guided biking experience. It's a small group, no more than 20, 22 max on some tour destinations, but typically average around 14 to 16 guests. They're going to have 2 expert local leaders. So where you travel to, those leaders have lived there, grown up there, been educated there, and they're going to show you their part of the world from behind the scenes and from the seat of a bicycle. We then take and do the same concept, but we have 2 different waterways, vessel types that we use. One is a bike and river cruise with our partner Emerald Cruises. So for that, you're basically on a scheduled Emerald Cruise departure with our group inserted on the sailing. And then when you come to port, you'll have your bike tour available to you, and off you go. And then you return to the ship and back to being a Emerald River Cruise guest. The other way that we do water is to move into barges. So these barges are retrofitted barges. You see on the wall in the barge what they used to look like, and they've turned them into these really neat vessels that you'll again live on for multiple nights, and then you'll come to the dock or port, depending on where they're located, and then your VBT bike tour will be ready to go. And we'll show you a few pictures of what those look like inside. Our newest style is self-guided biking. So this is really for an independent person. Got to be a little savvy around a bike. We do some training as well, but you're not going to have leaders or support vehicle with you the entire time. So there's some nuances with that, which we'll touch on in a few slides. Most of what we do is guided. So this is, again, probably a VBT, about 93% of what we do is a guided tour. Those local leaders I mentioned, of course, bilingual, so language is never a problem for anyone. We provide great VBT equipment, everything you need. We were talking earlier about the heat wave, it seems, or nice warm weather in Toronto. You can jump on our tour with your shorts and t-shirt and be ready to go, because we're going to provide a helmet, a bag. The bike's going to be fit to your preference as well as your height, so proper frame, and then it's all adjusted as you get on tour and do a warm-up ride. We include some excellent lodging and meals, so again, capturing the sense and the flavors of the area you're traveling to. And then we're not just getting on a bike and just going fast as we can, long as we can, day after day after day. What we're doing is using the bike as a means to get to some great off-bike activities. So these could be cooking class, as shown in the picture here. Could be cultural visits. I've been on VBT tours where we broke into small groups of 4 and visited different people's homes, where we had some coffee and just talked about, our culture versus their culture. Different experiences like that are blended into each and every day, and typically into each and every segment of the day during the rides. And then, of course, on our guided product, there's always a support vehicle that's available. So we know that not everybody that signs up is going to want to ride every inch of the road. You can don't have to commit to anything. You can take and ride some days and not others. You can ride part of the day. You can ride part of the rides. It's all really up to you. Everyone's going to ride at their own pace on the same route. And if you're not feeling it that day, that support vehicle is going to roll up and pick you and your bike up, and on you go to the next stop that we have, which is, again, could be an activity stop or a meal stop, etc. Types of bikes that we use. So just about every tour you have these three options: hybrid bike, which is upright, little custom fit to our clientele. I use it on tour. It's very comfortable. I like sitting upright and keeping my arms up. We have a road bike, which is generally for people that are a little more savvy around a bike and want to maybe go a little lighter and faster on the road. And then our very popular or electronic assist bike, which is a hybrid, but it's got a electric motor that's attached to it. And if you're not familiar with an e-bike, I'll just tell you a little bit about it, because it's a huge part of our business and keeps growing and growing and growing. So our e-bike technology, really, you have to pedal to make it work. It's not a moped, it's not a motorcycle. If you don't pedal, it's just going to be a very heavy bike that is going to sit there, and you're going to cruise down the road fairly slow. When you pedal, if it feels any sort of resistance, so maybe you're a little tired, maybe there's a hill coming up, or wind, or you just want to ride a little faster to maybe ride with someone that you are traveling with, it will engage the motor quietly. No one hears it. You feel it because you're just doing the same pedal cadence, and now you're accomplishing things that you wouldn't do on a normal hybrid or even a road bike. I was just up in Vermont a few weeks ago, and I tried one of our newest e-bikes, and it was just so easy. I did 13 miles and was ready for, many, many more. It's just amazing experience and makes the tour really enjoyable. What it does, it introduces a lot of people to these tours. So maybe you're interested in this, sounds neat, but your idea of sitting on a bike every day may not be your ideal vacation. So it allows you to get on, feel a little more comfortable that you're going to enjoy the riding and be able to do all the riding that you want to do, which is what most people intend to do when they sign up for the tour. It's equalized abilities. So we have a lot of people that come on. Typically there's a Pied Piper that's big into cycling, and they may be taking along a friends or spouse that maybe not so into biking, so it's allowed them to ride together a lot easier. And it's extended the career. I've been on a tour where I've had people that were on the 8th tour with us, and they were getting the aches and pains of being in their mid 60s. They took an e-bike, and they leaned into me about 3 days into the tour and said, you know what, you've got us for 10 more years, because these e-bikes are not only making this so enjoyable, but we're also going to add some destinations that we had totally crossed off the list, like Ireland and Croatia, because we now feel we can tackle these with the e-bikes. So really great tool, and great different ways that we have been able to use these to appeal to our customers. Our advice is, if you're thinking about an e-bike, you're not wimping out, just get one. You won't regret it. If you feel unchallenged, you can always turn it off. And again, it just becomes a little bit of a heavier bike, gliding down the road. I've been on many tours, and I've seen exactly 0 times where people turn the e-bike off because they weren't feeling challenged. We do limit the availability, particularly on our US domestic tours, just based on the vehicles and trailering required. But it's very easy. When you call Danny to book your tour, you can just say, hey, I need to make sure that we have an e-bike spot available. That will be one of the first questions asked. And again, we do our best to accommodate more and more of these each and every season. In Europe, it's less of a problem, because the trailers that we use are a lot different, and they can accommodate up to really a whole tour of e-bikes. But again, we're working on more ways of getting more e-bikes out, but typically every tour will have 8 to 10 slots for e-bikes available, and that's usually sufficient at this point. The other great piece of technology we use is Ride with GPS. So little evolution from taking and following route notes, which are printed out and dangerous to try to read as you're on a bike. It's essentially using a GPS turn by turn mounted to your handlebar, not using any data. And at the end, it's really neat that you can save your rides, you can share them with other people that are interested in what you're doing. I have nosy adult children, so it's really helpful for that. I can share and tell them that, hey, you know, we did 35 miles today and this is where we went with the map. So kind of cool. Typical day, I'm not going to read all this to you, but just to give you an idea of our day, it seems action packed, but we really space it out very well so that every ride is done in segments. I mentioned you don't have to commit to any bit of riding at any point until it actually happens. So we review the routes, we get a sense of who's doing what, you know, whether you want to ride or not and how much, but if you need to change that, it's no problem. We do a morning ride, get going, obviously with some stops and breaks and other experiences blended in. About half of the lunches and half of the dinners are going to be done with the group. The other half will be independent. And then we always stress some nice free time at the end of the day. So we don't want to jump off a bike and say, all right, we're going to meet for dinner in 15 minutes, or we're going to do this in 15 minutes. There's always, you know, a couple of hours to really get your legs back, so to speak, and be able to get ready and relax a little bit before you either join a group dinner or head out on your own for an independent meal. So when we take all the great components of our VBT tours and we look at our phone at the end of the week and we say, wow, this is what it looks like when we put it together. Excellent food, some unique lodging, some new friends, camaraderie, wonderful scenery, little technology to guide us through, and really makes for a wonderful week of touring with VBT. Now, I'd like to include these slides because we know, as Danny mentioned, that everybody knows, you know, travel's had a difficult time in 2020 and into 2021. So this was our first tour back after 13 months. And I like to show these pictures because if you look at it, you say, wow, what happened? There wasn't any pandemic or anything like that because everything looks really normal. We have our great bicycles, our smiling leaders, excellent food. This was in South Carolina. We had our president of our company on the tour to make sure everything went off without a hitch, and it went off absolutely perfect. Here's the only hint you'd say there's something going on here with pandemic is the masks hanging from their necks, but obviously these people are all family members and we're comfortable being around each other without the mask. But again, really all the great components that go into a VBT tour took a pause for 13 months and came right back strong and haven't stopped since. So we're back and we are looking forward to a wonderful 2022 with our bike tours. Mention waterways, we take a little glimpse of where we go. So here's our barge destinations in Europe, of course. Some really neat itineraries, great places to go. I personally have done the Holland and Belgium bike and boat, and there's no finer feeling than riding your bike along the canal into Bruges at the end of the week and then getting to spend time in Bruges, which is a fantastic little city. Here's some pictures of what it would look like inside. So you can see they're not, you know, most of the barges. We do have a couple of barges that you'd say, wow, that looks like an ocean liner, but typically they're comfortable cabins that private baths, a lot of good usable space, you know, because they're a little more compact than you might find on an ocean liner or even a traditional river cruise. But you see how neat it is. You just pull right into a dock, so to speak, and off you go on your bikes, and you're never returning to the same spot. the barge is going to move while you're off riding during the day, and you'll come back on to your dock and load back up, and then enjoy a lot of great meals and some nice public space on the barge as well, where everyone can relax and interact. Mention our Emerald cruises. So they used to be called Emerald Waterways, but they did change the name last year. And again, some really nice itineraries there. We also have a bike and, a cruise and walk itinerary as well. And when we look at inside these beautiful ships, you'll see they're ultra deluxe. And you are essentially an Emerald Cruises passenger with our great bike tour attached. So really neat way to travel. The guests that have gone on these tours have thoroughly enjoyed it. They like kind of the best of both worlds, and they still are able to zip out. And if they don't want to ride, they could take and do some of the traditional Emerald Cruises shore excursions. So really some nice options there, and great for people that maybe aren't as into cycling. Again, usually those might be companions or friends that they could do something while the cyclists could head out and do the tour itself. Self-guided, I mentioned, bit of a different animal in that you're not going to have leaders. You're going to have great support in the background. You're going to have orientation when you first get there, but you're going to have to make a couple of small repairs to the bike, like a flat tire, put a chain back on. Anything major, that background support kicks right into gear, and we'll take care of that. But some small repairs you are responsible for. We're going to coordinate all the movement of luggage and everything for you. Some unique lodging. You'll have a custom road book. And of course, we rely on Ride with GPS, even more so than in our guided product. We're going to jump to country walkers. And again, a lot of this is similar, but a few different nuances. So I'll more or less point out the different nuances as we go. So 2 styles instead of 3. We have guided small group vacations, no more than 20 guests, but we have maximums that range from max 13, max 16, max 18. So it does vary across the destination spectrum. Most of our tours would average around 12 to 14 guests with 2 local guides. Then we have our self-guided, which has got a lot of the same components as our biking, but we're using our own 2 feet. Country walkers around the world, the map is quite similar. Heavy concentration in Europe, US, Canada. We do no longer, sorry, this is out of date, do Australia as of 2022. That's kind of a new one for us that we're not operating there. But we do New Zealand, we do Japan. And then you'll see in Africa, we're not walking really, but we have under the product line some nice safaris available as well. So again, we don't want people walking out with the elephants, but they would do a traditional safari, just bookable under the Country Walkers brand. Mentioned the activity level. It's really a little bit more important when it comes to walking, because biking compensates for some of the activity level variances. So again, particularly e-bikes compensate for a lot of it. So for walking, it's a little bit more important to make sure that you're capable of doing this, or you're going to be comfortable of doing these types of walks on a sustained basis, on a weekly basis with our tour. Most of what we do offer is easy to moderate, ranges in those first 3 columns, moving from left to right. And again, anyone with, you got to have good mobility to do it, but they do, vary a little bit. So it's not always, a lot of people just go right to miles. They say, well, how many miles? But you can see miles is just one part of what we look at. We're looking at the surface. We're looking at how many hours, what the elevation and elevation gain or loss is very important for many, many of our guests, because if I live at sea level, which I do now, and I'm in, Mont Blanc, it's going to affect me when I'm up to 4,000 feet. So it's quite important that I know about that and make my choice of tours accordingly. And then we do, of course, take and give advice on what type of fitness. And we'll do that throughout the whole booking process as well, with our preparation lists and how you get ready for a tour. Again, thinking back, we're not out in the super athlete, not hanging out at Crunch Fitness to make sure we get the guys coming out of gym class. We definitely a mainstream audience that really enjoys, walking and smelling the roses a little bit more than being hustled along in a big bus, or, trying to drive along themselves in a rental car and so forth. What you get is quite similar to VBT, those local guides. We have 2 local guides on the groups, great walks. Most tours are about 5 to 7 miles per day average. Excellent accommodations and some boutique family-owned type of places. Those off the path activities. My first Country Walkers tour was Piedmont, Italy. Slow food movement of the world. Every single walk, every single day, every single part of that tour involved food or wine or both. And we would have all sorts of great tastings, cooking classes where we made dinner for ourselves at a restaurant. Just unique experiences. And when I came back, I could, talk the talk and walk the walk in my kitchen here with my Italian restaurant apron on and ready to go. So really some neat experiences. And again, we're going to capture all the great flavors of the area that you travel to. And sometimes those can be a little strange. Like if you're in South America, that, some different things get on the menu that you may or may not want to try, but we can also accommodate anyone's diet restrictions and allergies and so forth. That's not an issue at all anywhere we go in the world. Our typical day is quite similar to VBT. We're always going to leave some nice free time, some time for those off the path experiences. We're going to go at a steady pace, but not a hard boot camp type pace on just about all of our tours. You are definitely much more grouped up on a walking tour than on biking, because biking, everyone's going to have a natural speed that they're going to go to, and we get together at various points on the route. With walking, you want to listen to the guides, what they're saying, what they're talking about. So it's definitely a little bit more maybe spread for a few minutes and then back together for a while, that type of thing, instead of having a real spread end to end on the group as you walk. And then at the end of the week, we look at our phone and we see these great images of what we experienced, the walks, the unique lodging. Not to drive wine home, but we do have a lot of nice wine and wine tastings that are involved as part of the cultural part of our tours. And of course, some great smiling faces. This slide's coming up are my last tour that I did, which was in 2019 in the summer. And this was in Ireland. So nice sunny Ireland for a change, which is really neat. And we had a smaller group, but 2 excellent leaders, guides, and did some wonderful walks. In this case, we actually did have a support vehicle in the form of a jaunting cart, and only because this walk was a little longer than we do in one setting. It was a 7-mile walk through the Gap of Dunlow. Not hard walking, just gradual, through the gap, down through the Black Valley, greeted by a picnic lunch, and then this crazy boat captain with his Irish shtick took us right across the lake back to Killarney, and just a magnificent day. I always like to share these photos because it's reminds me of how great our tours are and the experiences I've had on tour. Continuing on, here's some other slides. I always like upper left corner, the gentleman with the Nikon strap. we had visited this other gentleman who's talking his farm. He'd come in and presented to us before dinner the night before. We went to his family farm outside Killarney. He was transitioning that to his oldest son as Irish tradition. Took us all around. We had the traditional meal of scones and Irish whiskey. And Dennis, with the Nikon strap, leaned into me and he said, if this is why we travel with you, because we'd never find these type of things on our own. If we had come here, we'd be down in the busy Killarney tourist traps buying souvenirs and so forth, instead of really coming out to the countryside and experiencing this like none other. So really a wonderful experience, and I always like sharing these pictures with you. So on to self-guided walking. Most of the same type of inclusions as we do with biking. So that great local support and orientation and background support should anything go really wrong. And, you know, it's not always that we did something wrong. It could be something, you know, an incident or whatever may happen with when traveling. It's nice to know that locally you have that great support. Some excellent lodging, some real unique lodging involved, custom route notes that will be designed specifically for your departure. And then all your transfers of you and your luggage at needed. So all you're walking with is just what you're going to use for the day. You know, typically a day pack, fanny pack, or some people even just clip a water bottle to their belt and off they go. And then we do include breakfast every day and then some meals, but a little fewer than you'd find on guided, just because it is independent. We want you to be able to choose where you dine. In that route notebook, we'll tell you some great recommendations. So, and I will say one note that's a little different between the self-guided biking. It's set departure dates, just like our group tours are. So you look in the website, the catalog, you find a date, and that's when you can book. With walking, we offer it on request over a large range of dates. So it gives you a little flexibility there that you can go when you want to go. We have a lot of guests that will pair it up. So they might do 2 self-guided tours in Europe, or they might do a guided and a self-guided because they have that flexibility to make it work. So really a neat product in that realm. If you need some real flexibility in your dates, it's a great way to go. Mention air packages. Any tour that is operated outside of the United States, we offer this international air option. We do have pricing from Canada, most the major Canadian cities, and we can get pricing from even some of the secondary airports in Canada as well. Includes your international flights on known carriers, transfers on each side of the flight. So when you arrive and then when you depart, you'll get a transfer and they'll be waiting for you. A pre and a post hotel night. So 2 hotel nights surrounding the actual tour. And what's super nice is the guides or leaders will meet you right at that hotel the day the actual tour begins. So you fly over, get your transfer, that night on your own, you eat breakfast, which is included, and then the guides or leaders are coming to you to then set out on tour. End of the tour, you're back to the post-tour hotel night, and then the following day, your transfer brings you to your flight, and off you return to North America. We do also give the opportunity to extend those. So most tours have it in 2-night increments, front and back, to add on. So you could take our Europe 6-night, 7-day tour and add all that together, and you can easily book a 14-day trip with us and have a lot of free time mixed in with a lot of great group or self-guided time as well. So we mentioned COVID a little bit, and Danny gave his thought, which is spot on. You know, I think we're all through the point where in travel, we're going to manage it. We know how to manage it. We've learned a lot. throughout the last year. And we will continue to monitor and adjust our protocols as necessary, from everything: sanitation, food handling, et cetera. I mentioned our association with Tour Cares, which is in sync with Canada, Europe, and the US. So we're following that to a T. We have our owner funds a medical center in Denver, so we have medical advice right on staff. We've relaxed our booking policies a little bit for this year in one way, and for next year to give a little flexibility if someone wants to pivot to a different destination or date. It's going to be fairly easy to do as long as there's space. And we do have some great digital catalogs. We know that in-person contact is not back up to where it is. So maybe, or maybe you just prefer to have something on your computer than handling a book. We have some nice catalogs available, and Danny can help facilitate those for you. And again, we're very confident that this is going to rebound. We've already seen great results for next year, and we've learned how to operate through this. So we think that the better times are definitely ahead of us. One thing we do provide to all of our guests to give a little peace of mind is 24/7 support. So if you are on your way to the tour, your flight's delayed, your flight's canceled, you get injured, anything that could happen, we provide one number. It springs our whole team into action in different ways. And I've used it myself, even though I work for the company. I'm like, my flight's canceled, I'm arriving 6 hours later, and boom, I show up in Ireland, and there's my crazy transfer driver with the sign ready to take me away. So that is all I have tonight. I want to thank you very much for tuning in. There's a note, of course, for future webinars that you can tune into. And we do have a little time if we want to answer any questions. Please feel free.
While that happens, Glenn, I'll step in and make some comments. First of all, I want to thank you very much for an enjoyable presentation on a form of traveling that is becoming more and more popular, especially at a time when small groups are better in terms of close contact. And while different difficulty modes are available, from easy to challenging, I would imagine that it's an active vacation that requires some physical preparation in advance. And I know people that have taken walking vacations through me that have taken a couple of months actually to prepare themselves, just so that they will be comfortable. But I guess that's one of the things that occurred to me when you're doing your presentation was, how do we determine the fitness level of a person who wants to take one of these trips, especially if it's more along the challenging level?
Yeah, so as a company, we don't, you rely on self-assessment. We're not lining people up for physical or anything like that, because it just, all different rules and so forth. What we rely on is, let's give you as many facts as we can about it. So we rate the tour based on that. But beyond that, all of our tour consultants have been on tour, and they have a pile of, we call them cliff notes, like the old, books in high school and whatnot, of other things beyond it. We're not going to publish 50 different nuances about a tour, but if someone says, well, I'm really concerned about vertigo or this type of condition or whatever it may be, they have all piles of notes to make sure. The last thing we want is someone to get out and overwhelmed by it, not feel like they're on vacation, which is what it is. And if it's in a group setting, they're like that, it can create issues, potentially with the other members of the group.
Exactly. Self-assessment is important, and obviously, it's my job as a travel agent to help people to make decisions about what they're capable of doing.
Yep.
One of the things, Glenn, that I was most impressed with is the life of your companies. VBT has been in business for 50 years, Country Walkers for 42. I look for that as a travel agent on behalf of clients for that's reliability. You've been in business that long, then you know what you're doing, and you're very likely have weathered ups and downs. I don't know if anything has been as bad as COVID, but certainly, you're around for the long term, and I like that for protection for my clients.
Yeah, definitely. And as I mentioned, with Xanterra, we're very well backed. So part of being able to, as we say when we walk, trundling through this last year has been some tremendous support of a very wealthy owner who's got a lot of businesses that are in the hospitality and sports teams and and all that. So you can imagine a lot of your businesses are getting picked at, and we just got through it and got back out there and investing still like we were 2 years ago. So it's I love it. It's great.
Well, it's good as far as I'm concerned from the point of view of reliability.
Yeah.
Self-guided biking, assistance if needed. You mentioned about making small repairs, having the knowledge for that. How I guess you would use a cell phone if you ended up, having something that was more than a minor repair.
Yep. So part of the orientation is a bike fitting. So we're going to get the height and the preference of the bike. So what e-bike, hybrid bike, road bike, and it's fitted with this orientation. They'll get a repair kit as part of their bag. So we wouldn't have that on our guided product because the leaders are going to do that. But in this case, you'll have that. You'll show how to repair a tire. It's not as bad as it seems. And then if there's something major, maybe it's an accident or, the bike gets stolen, we do provide locks and everything, but, there's ways around everything. That's where that background support would spring in, and it's local. So, a lot of these tours operate in Europe. So as we're resting comfortably here in our continent, there's someone over there handling it for everyone.
Yeah. Another thing that part of your presentation that really impressed me, and of course I've been selling travel for 18 years now, is that you really, more so than many other travel opportunities, you get a chance to experience local flavor and culture. And you've mentioned that a number of times. But I think it's worthy of being repeated. Very impressive.
Yeah, it's a great product. And I showed my Ireland slides. Right beyond that, that was July of that year, and beginning of August, we had our Irish 90th birthday party in Boston for a relative, and a bunch of relatives came over from Ireland for it. And I was like, happen to be right where we toured. So when I'm talking about walking the walk and talking the talk, that's what I was doing with them. Because I'd just been there and learned so much culture and history and so forth.
I was also pleased to know that the complete package can actually be purchased. It becomes seamless when that happens. And if there are any issues, then you folks take care of that. And I like the idea of that extensions, pre and post extensions, can be added as well. I always recommend to clients, if they've never been in a particular area, if they're doing a river cruise or a coach tour or something like that, why not add a couple of days on at the beginning and at the end, so you can experience a place that you're probably not going to get back to, because there's so many more new places to go to out there. You're not likely to backtrack. So
and what's nice about the air, we have our own in-house air team. So some tour operators have air, but it's farmed out, and good luck if you ever have a problem. It's Expedia's or whatever it may be. So for us, it's in-house, and the last year has definitely taught us the value of that, having people that are actively looking at your itinerary when you're not and the other entities aren't. We're working it through, because obviously we've had a lot of schedule changes, things like that. credits and cancels and shifts and all
Yeah.
that. So it's nice to have a great team
Yeah.
working on that for you and your clients.
Well, which also, leads me to the importance of a travel agent too. I mean, many people stuck in COVID with carriers, whether they're companies or airlines that wouldn't return your phone call, or you'd be online for 2 to 3 hours. Travel agents, pick that up, as well as concerned tour operators like yourselves. So
Yeah.
definitely worth considering a travel agent
Oh yeah.
to book your trips. Glenn, thank you very much again. This has been very enlightening for me, and I certainly hope that everybody that's been listening has gotten some good information. I know there's at least one here who has already booked with you and knows the experience. So anyway, to close this presentation, due to presenter unavailability on October the 19th, that's next week, tune in at 6:30 Atlantic Daylight Time on Tuesday, October the 26th for our next presentation. Margarita Peloso of Azamara Cruises will showcase the cruise line, but also look at a couple of transatlantic repositioning cruises. So Glenn, thank you again very much for your presentation on country walkers and VBT bike tours. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thanks for tuning in.
Okay.
Take care.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye now. Oh.